Hi, I'm Connie Kidder. I have served as a Stephen leader at my church, Covenant of Grace Presbyterian Church, and have enjoyed many years of service there before coming to join this group at Carroll Lutheran.
I'm Bob Nickel, and I began my service as a Stephen minister with Emmanuel Lutheran Church in Manchester prior to coming here to the village. I was in charge of that operation, so I had both training with care receivers as well as the administrative end of activity. Here I've been very much involved with rebooting the program and keeping things moving along logistically. I did my training as a Stephen leader in a very intensive program in Pittsburgh several years ago now, and so that's where I am. Well, it's both a concept and a process. And the process is one of establishing a one-on-one relationship of highly qualified people in a Christian caring relationship. It also involves, over time, whether the Stephen minister has a care receiver or not, the attendance in very regular meetings where the education continues and supervision of the relationship is examined by those within that Stephen ministry group, always maintaining confidentiality with regard to who the individual is or any identifying characteristics of that relationship. Several reasons. I've always wanted to continue my outreach, but most of my career has been in management, where I'm involved with lots of people and organizations. And even in my volunteer work, it's with committees. I wanted to find something where I could experience that one-on-one kind of a relationship for the first time. And I think in addition to that, it was necessary that we look into what Stephen ministry was. Was it a cultish kind of a thing, or was it a solid organization that I would become part of? The ministry began in 1975, so it has a long track record. There are over 13,000 congregations today that have that Stephen ministry function. And over 600,000 ministers have been trained. And we have served over 1.5 million people in need. So it's a very reliable and very supportive organization to be a part of.
And it's not just Lutheran churches, it encompasses all Christian denominations.
And beyond Christian, we do not push the religion. We could easily deal with someone who is a Mormon, or Jewish,
or an atheist.
Or an atheist. Sure. We are in all of the United States, most of Canada, and 30 foreign countries. So we're broad spread.
Well, for me, I have always been interested in caring ministries. And as a young woman, I experienced some significant losses and some real bumps in the road of my life. And I remember receiving encouragement and care and love from my faith community. And I always wanted to be able to give back to others what I had received. And so when my pastor asked me to attend a Stephen ministry training program, I was happy to do that. And after that, we went back to our congregation and started Stephen Ministry. And this was in 1986. And I've been involved with it ever since. And really, it is a blessing.
Yes, it is. And it's time commitment in two ways. Not only the amount of time that would be involved with their care receiver, and that's typically once a week for about an hour, but also how long is that commitment in place? What is the term of that commitment? And here again, we look at a guideline of about 3 years that we ask a minister to stay in service.
I think sometimes people approach this with the idea that perhaps they couldn't handle it, or they're uncomfortable in a one-on-one situation. And often during the training, we address those things, and by the time they finish, they feel equipped to handle this type of relationship.
Well, let me add one other comment to that. We are caregivers and not cure givers.
Right.
We are segues for what God's capacity and outreach is. And there are times in a relationship with a care receiver where we exceed or are asked to exceed what our capacity is. We may need to refer that individual for clergy or human services, health care. So we have boundaries that we need to watch in everything that we do.
And we're quick to remind people that we are not counselors, we are not psychologists, we are friends, Christians walking alongside of a friend in need.
I think in two ways. Number one, the spectrum of needs is different. For example, in a church congregation, you may find unwanted pregnancy, loss of a job, divorce. Those are not things that we would typically find here in Carroll Lutheran Village. On the other hand, we have to deal more often with critical health issues, end-of-life concerns, loss of a spouse or a family member. So there's a difference in that continuum of care between the two. And secondly, we are a campus of almost 1,000 people now. When you look at independent living and our health care and assisted living process. Many of our mainline congregations today are smaller, much smaller. The attendance may be 100, 150, 200 people.
I think some of the common needs that, besides the ones Bob mentioned, is that we find people in this community deal more with depression and with loneliness.
Yeah, we're all dealing with pandemic fatigue.
Right.
And it's particularly hard for many of the people here on this campus because we've had very restrictive visitation capability. I think there are 4 or 5 that come to mind. Number one, we need to make sure that all of our commissioned Stephen ministers have care receivers. We're not today fully armed, if you will, with respect to care receivers. Secondly, we need to think about starting a new class to train Stephen ministers. And that's both recruiting those individuals who have a heart for that opportunity, as well as the logistics of how are we going to teach and who's going to teach. We need to look out for opportunities for our ministers who are qualified to get additional training as leaders. And lastly, I think we need to make sure from a public relations point of view that our campus understands who we are, what we do, and where those opportunities either are for help or the opportunity to serve as a minister.
We emphasize confidentiality in Stephen Ministry, and this is so very important so that people know things that they share with their Stephen minister will not be a part of the campus grapevine. It will never be. Everything is confidential, and we protect the privacy of all the individuals involved.
And that's true even in the supervision. You may very well think that you know who that individual is that you are evaluating, but that matter is kept within the group, always confidential. I think we're emerging from a very difficult period. We lost our administrative leader, Deacon Don Myers, in the middle of last year due to health issues. And we rebooted our group, 2 classes that were graduated in 2019 and 2020. And we're now coming back online, reestablishing our regular meetings, getting referrals for those on campus who are candidates for help. But we're not there yet. We're moving along, I think, very, very well, but we've got a ways to go.